Captain Li Han felt his heart beating fast as he looked through the front window of his spaceship. In front of them was the biggest alien ship he had ever seen. It was like a giant crystal palace floating in the dark space, with bright lights, moving inside its walls like water. "Captain, we are getting close to their docking bay," said Lieutenant Park Soo-jin from her seat. She was Han's second in command and had been with him for 5 years. Her hands moved quickly over the control buttons, but Han could see she was nervous too. Engineer Kim Do-yeon was checking all the ship systems one last time. "Everything looks good, Captain. All our systems are working perfectly," she said in her calm voice. Do-yeon always stayed cool under pressure, which is why Han picked her for this important mission. This was the first time humans would meet the Relarian Empire face to face. For 3 years, the aliens had been watching Earth from far away. They never came close or tried to talk to humans. Earth's governments tried many times to contact them, but the aliens always ignored them. Then, 2 months ago, something changed. The Relarians sent a message to Earth. It was short and simple. "We will meet. Send your best representative." Every country on Earth wanted to choose who would go, but in the end, they picked Han because he was good at talking to people and solving problems. Han looked at his reflection in the window and fixed his blue uniform one more time. This uniform was special. It had patches from every country on Earth. The whole planet was counting on him and his small crew of 12 people. "Captain, they are opening their docking door," Soo-jin said. "It's huge. Our whole ship could fit inside it 10 times. Through the window, Han watched as massive metal doors opened slowly. Inside, he could see a bright golden light. The alien ship was pulling them in with some kind of invisible force. Their engines were off, but they were still moving forward smoothly. "This is incredible," whispered Do-yeon. "Their technology is so advanced. They are moving our ship without touching it." Han felt excited and scared at the same time. Everything they knew about aliens came from movies and books. Nobody knew what the Relarians really looked like or what they wanted from humans. Some people on Earth thought they were friendly, but others worried they might be dangerous. "Remember, everyone," Han said to his crew over the communication system, "we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm, be respectful, and follow my lead." As their ship moved deeper into the alien docking bay, Han saw other spacecraft parked around them. They were all different shapes and sizes, and they looked like they came from different planets. This meant the Relarians had contact with many other alien species. The docking process finished with a soft sound. Their ship was now connected to the alien mothership. Han took a deep breath and stood up from his captain's chair. After years of preparation and training, the moment had finally come. "Soo-jin, Do-yeon, you're with me," Han said. "The rest of the crew will stay here and monitor everything." As Han walked toward the door that would take him into the alien ship, he thought about his family back on Earth. His parents, his younger sister, and millions of other people were watching this moment on television. Whatever happened next would change human history forever. The door opened and Han stepped forward into the unknown. The doors to the grand hall opened with a soft whoosh, and Han felt his breath catch in his throat. The room was enormous, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high that he couldn't see the top, and the walls were covered with panels that glowed like stars. Beautiful colors moved across the surfaces, like dancing lights. "Stay close," Han whispered to Soo-jin and Do-yeon as they walked forward on the smooth, mirror-like floor. At the far end of the hall, on a raised platform, stood the most amazing creature Han had ever seen. Queen Morthala was tall, at least 8 feet, with long, graceful arms and legs. Her skin looked like liquid silver, constantly shifting and moving with soft light. She wore flowing robes that seemed to be made of the same glowing material as the walls. Around the queen stood her advisors. They were all similar to her, but smaller, with different colored skin, some blue, some green, some gold. All of them were watching the humans with curious eyes. Han had practiced this moment hundreds of times. According to the information they had received, he was supposed to stop exactly 10 steps away from the queen, bow his head, and wait for her to speak first. That was the proper Relarian greeting protocol. But something unexpected happened as soon as Queen Morthala saw Han. Her silver skin began to change. The color shifted slowly from silver to a deep, rich purple that seemed to glow from within. The change started at her face and spread down her entire body, like water flowing over her skin. The advisors around her made soft, gasping sounds. They looked at each other with wide eyes, clearly shocked by what they were seeing. One of them, an older Relarian with blue skin, stepped forward as if to say something, but the Queen raised her hand to stop him. Then, Queen Morthala did something. That surprised everyone in the room, including her own people. Instead of staying on her platform and following the formal ceremony, she stepped down and walked directly toward Han. Her movements were smooth and graceful, like she was floating rather than walking. As she got closer, Han could see that her eyes were large and kind, with a soft golden glow. She stopped just a few feet away from him, much closer than the protocol allowed. "Welcome, travelers from the distant world called Earth," the Queen said, and her voice was like music. It was warm and friendly, nothing like the cold, formal tone Han had expected from an alien ruler. Su Jin and Do Yon looked confused. They had also studied the proper greeting ceremony, and this was not how it was supposed to go. The Queen's advisors were whispering to each other, their faces showing concern and confusion. "Your Majesty," Han said, trying to follow the script he had memorized. "I am Captain Li Han, representing the planet Earth and all of humanity. We are honored by your invitation to meet." But Queen Morthala smiled, an expression that looked surprisingly human despite her alien features. "Captain Han," she said, "there is no need for such formal words between us. I have been waiting to meet your people for a very long time." She gestured toward a smaller area of the hall where comfortable chairs were arranged around a table. "Please sit with me. We have much to discuss, and I want to know everything about your world and your people." The blue-skinned advisor stepped forward again, looking worried. "Your Majesty, the traditional greeting ceremony can wait," the Queen said firmly, her purple skin growing even brighter. "Today is not a day for old traditions. Today is the beginning of something new." Han felt a mix of relief and confusion as he followed the Queen to the seating area, wondering what had caused such an unusual welcome. The next morning, Han woke up in the comfortable guest quarters the Relarians had given him. The room was beautiful, with walls that changed colors like a sunset and a bed that felt like floating on clouds. He had just finished getting dressed when a soft chime sounded at his door. A young Relarian servant with golden skin stood outside. "Captain Han, Queen Morthala requests your presence in her private study," the servant said politely. Han looked at his watch. It was only 7 in the morning, Earth time. He had expected to meet with the Queen's Council today, not have another private meeting with the Queen herself. When he arrived at the Queen's study, he found her sitting beside a large window that showed the stars outside. On the table in front of her was a small box that sparkled like diamonds. "Good morning, Captain Han," she said, her skin shifting to that same purple color as before. "I hope you slept well. I have something for you." She pushed the box toward him. Inside was the most beautiful crystal Han had ever seen. It was perfectly clear but seemed to have tiny galaxies swirling inside it. "This is a memory crystal from my home planet," Queen Morthala explained. "It contains the history of our people. I want you to have it." Han was shocked. "Your Majesty, this seems too valuable. I cannot accept such an important gift. Please," she said softly. "It would make me very happy if you kept it." This became a daily routine. Every morning the Queen would call for Han. Sometimes she wanted to show him different parts of her ship. Other times she would give him gifts, rare foods from distant planets, books written in glowing letters, or pieces of art that moved like they were alive. But the most surprising thing was that she insisted Han eat dinner with her every evening at her personal table. This was unheard of in Relarian culture. Even her own advisors rarely ate with the Queen. Lieutenant Park Sujin started to notice how the other Relarians were acting. During the day, while Han was with the Queen, Sujin and Doyon were supposed to meet with the Relarian scientists and diplomats. But instead of focusing on their work, the aliens kept talking about the Queen's strange behavior. "In 300 years, our Queen has never shown such interest in any visitor," one of the blue-skinned advisors told Sujin during a break in their meetings. "She treats your captain like he is royalty himself." Another Relarian, this one with green skin and kind eyes, pulled Sujin aside after lunch. "Is your captain some kind of special leader on your planet?" she asked quietly. "Does he have powers we do not know about?" Sujin didn't know how to answer. Han was a good captain and a skilled diplomat, but he wasn't anything supernatural. He was just a regular human being who worked hard and cared about people. The whispers grew louder each day. Sujin would walk through the corridors of the ship and hear groups of Relarians talking in hushed voices. They would stop talking when they saw her, but she could tell they were all discussing the same thing, why their queen was treating the human captain so specially. Even during the formal meetings, the Relarian officials seemed distracted. They would glance toward the door, as if expecting the queen to walk in and take Han away again. Duyon mentioned it to Han one evening when he returned from another private dinner with the queen. "Captain, the other Relarians are acting very strange. They keep asking us questions about you like they're trying to solve a puzzle." Han felt confused too. He had come here expecting formal diplomatic meetings with many officials. Instead, he was spending most of his time alone with the queen, who seemed more interested in learning about his childhood on Earth than discussing trade agreements or peace treaties. "Maybe this is just how their culture works," Han said, though he wasn't convinced himself. Something unusual was definitely happening, but Han had no idea what it could be. On the 5th day of their visit, Han finally got some answers, but not in the way he expected. The Queen had arranged for a cultural exchange session in the ship's great library. This room was even more impressive than the Grand Hall, with floating books that glowed softly and walls covered in moving pictures that told stories. Han, Sujin, and Do-Yon sat at a round table with several Relarian scholars. The Queen was there too, but she seemed different today, more serious and thoughtful than usual. Her skin stayed a calm silver color instead of changing to purple when she looked at Han. The head scholar, an elderly Relarian with deep blue skin and wise eyes, stood up slowly. His name was Elder Veltar, and he was clearly very respected among his people. In his hands he held an ancient book that looked thousands of years old. "Captain Han," Elder Veltar said in a voice that shook slightly with age, "there is something you must know. Something that explains why our queen has welcomed you so warmly." Han leaned forward, finally hoping to understand what had been happening. Sujin and Do-Yon exchanged glances. They had been wondering about this mystery for days. Elder Veltar opened the old book carefully. The pages seemed to be made of some kind of metal that bent like paper, and the words on them glowed with soft light. "This is the Book of Future Sight, written by our ancestors 3,000 years ago. They had the gift of seeing events that had not yet happened." He turned several pages until he found what he was looking for. "Here," he said, pointing to a section of glowing text. "Let me read this to you in your language." The elder cleared his throat and began to read. "In the time of great division, when our people fight among themselves and peace seems impossible, there will come star wanderers from a distant world. These beings will have faces of many colors and speak with many voices, yet they will be united as one people. They will show us the path to harmony that we have forgotten." Han felt a chill run down his spine. The description was remarkably accurate. Elder Veltar continued reading. "The Star Wanderers will not come as conquerors with weapons of war. Instead, they will come with open hands and hearts full of understanding. They will see the good in all beings and help enemies become friends. When they arrive, even the coldest hearts will warm, and the most stubborn minds will open to new possibilities." Do-Yon whispered to Han, "Captain, that sounds exactly like how humans solve problems." Back on Earth, the elder wasn't finished. He turned another page and read the final part. "The leader of these Star Wanderers will be recognized immediately by those with the sight to see. This one will carry the wisdom of many peoples within themselves, for their world is a place where different tribes have learned to live together in peace." Queen Morthala finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. "Captain Han, when I first saw you, I felt something I had never experienced before. A warmth, a recognition deep in my soul. I did not understand it until Elder Veltar reminded me of this prophecy." Han thought about what he had just heard. Earth really was a place where people of different races, cultures, and backgrounds had learned to work together. It hadn't been easy. There had been wars and conflicts throughout human history, but over time people had learned that cooperation was better than fighting. "Your crew proves this prophecy true," the Queen continued, gesturing towards Su-jin. "And Do-yeon. Lieutenant Park comes from one part of your world, Engineer Kim from another, and you from yet another region. But you work together as if you are family." Su-jin nodded slowly. "On Earth, our space program brings together people from many different countries. We've learned that we're stronger when we combine our different skills and ideas." Elder Veltar closed the ancient book. "For 3,000 years we have waited for the Star Wanderers. Our empire has been torn by conflicts between different worlds and different groups of our people. We have forgotten how to make peace." Han finally understood why the Queen had been treating him so specially. It wasn't just diplomatic courtesy. She believed he and his crew were the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy that could save her people. The peaceful atmosphere in the library was suddenly broken by loud alarms echoing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls, and Han could hear the sound of many footsteps running in the corridors outside. Queen Morthala's skin immediately changed from silver to a dark, worried blue. Elder Veltar dropped his ancient book and moved toward the door with surprising speed for his age. "What's happening?" Han asked, standing up quickly. Before the Queen could answer, the library doors burst open. A group of Rilarian soldiers marched in, followed by a tall, imposing figure that Han had never seen before. This Rilarian was different from the others. His skin was darker, almost black, and he wore military armor instead of flowing robes. His eyes were cold and angry. "General Kexmar," Queen Morthala said, her voice steady but tense, "you dare to enter my library without permission?" The general ignored the Queen's question and pointed directly at Han. "So this is the so-called prophet that has bewitched our Queen," he said with a sneer. "He looks like nothing special to me." Han felt Su-jin and Do-yeon move closer to him, ready to protect their captain if needed. But Han raised his hand slightly, signaling them to stay calm. General Kexmar stepped forward, his heavy boots making loud sounds on the library floor. "Your Majesty, half of your council now believes you have lost your mind. You ignore important matters of state to play games with these aliens. You give away precious gifts and share royal meals with creatures who are not even part of our empire. General, you forget your place," the Queen said, her skin now glowing with anger. "No, Your Majesty, you have forgotten yours," Kexmar replied, boldly. "For 3 days I have watched you embarrass our people with this foolish behavior. These humans are not the prophets from our ancient stories. They are just another weak species trying to trick us." Han realized this was a serious challenge to the Queen's authority. On Earth, he had seen similar situations where military leaders disagreed with their governments. It was a dangerous moment that could lead to civil war. Elder Veltar tried to speak. "General, the prophecy clearly states, I care nothing for old stories and fairy tales," Kexmar interrupted harshly. "I care about the strength and honor of our empire. If these humans are truly the Star Wanderers of legend, then let them prove it." The general turned to face Han directly. His eyes were full of suspicion and dislike. "I challenge you, human. Captain, you have 3 days to show us that your people can do what the prophecy claims. Bring peace to a conflict that has torn our empire apart for 50 years. Han felt his heart beating faster. "What conflict?" he asked. Queen Morthala looked sad as she explained. 2 of our colony worlds, Jara Prime and Vextal 7, have been fighting over mining rights to a valuable asteroid field. Thousands have died in this war. Every attempt at peace talks has failed. If you can solve this problem in 3 days, General Kexmar said with a cruel smile, then I will accept that you are the prophets. But when you fail, you and your crew will leave our empire forever, and our queen will return to ruling with wisdom instead of foolish hope. Han looked at Su-jin and Do-yeon. Both of them looked worried but determined. He knew they were thinking the same thing he was. This seemed impossible. How could they solve a 50-year-old war in just 3 days? But then Han remembered something his grandfather had told him when he was young. The most difficult problems often have the simplest solutions. People just get so angry that they forget to look for them. "I accept your challenge, General," Han said firmly, The Queen's skin shifted to a brighter color, showing her surprise and hope. General Kexmar's expression didn't change. He clearly expected the humans to fail. "Very well," the general said. "You have until sunset on the third day. I will be watching every move you make." As the soldiers left with their general, Han turned to his crew. "Sujin, I need you to study everything about this conflict. Battle reports, casualty lists, everything. Do-yeon, learn about the asteroid field and the mining technology both sides are using." "What about Communications Officer Yoon Min-ho?" Sujin asked. "He's still back on our ship." "Get him up here immediately," Han said. "We're going to need his language skills to talk to both sides, and we're going to need a miracle." Han spent the first day learning everything he could about the 50-year war between Jara Prime and Vextal 7. Sujin had gathered reports and files that painted a grim picture. The conflict had started over who had the right to mine valuable crystals from an asteroid field that sat exactly between the two planets. "Captain, look at this," Sujin said, spreading holographic maps on the table in their temporary workspace. "Both planets claim the asteroid field belongs to them. Jara Prime says they discovered it first, but Vextal 7 says they were the first to actually start mining there." Do-yeon had been studying the technical details. The crystals they're fighting over are called Velthium. They're used to power their spaceships and cities. Without them, both planets would struggle to survive. Communications Officer Yoon Min-ho had arrived from their ship and was already working on translating documents from both sides. "Captain, I've been reading their peace proposals from the past 50 years. Every attempt at negotiation has failed, because neither side will give up their claim to the entire asteroid field." Han rubbed his forehead, feeling the weight of the impossible task. On Earth, he had helped resolve disputes between different countries, but those conflicts were usually solved over months or years, not 3 days. As the second day began, Han asked Queen Morthula to arrange video calls with the leaders of both warring planets. General Kexmar sat in the corner of the room, watching every move with suspicious eyes. The first call was with Governor Lee Tae-min of Jara Prime. He appeared on the large screen as a middle-aged Relarian with tired-looking green skin. Behind him, Han could see the damage from recent attacks, broken buildings and scared citizens. "Governor Lee," Han said respectfully, "I understand your people have suffered greatly in this war." "For 50 years, Captain Han," the governor replied sadly. "Vextal 7 attacks our mining ships every month. They have killed thousands of our workers and stolen crystals that rightfully belong to us." The second call was with Commander Park, Hee-jin of Vextal 7. She was younger than Governor Lee, with bright blue skin, but her eyes showed the same exhaustion and anger. "Commander Park," Han said, "your people have also paid a heavy price for this conflict." "Indeed we have," she said firmly. "Jara Prime invaded our mining territory and refuses to leave. We are only defending what is ours by ancient right." After the calls ended, General Kexamar shook his head. "You see, they both claim the same territory. There is no solution except for one side to surrender completely to the other." But Han had an idea that was starting to form in his mind. It was something he had learned from Earth's history. Sometimes the best solutions came from thinking completely differently about a problem. "What if they're both fighting over the wrong thing?" Han said quietly. Sujin looked confused. "What do you mean, Captain?" "On Earth, we had similar problems," Han explained. 2 countries would fight over a piece of land for years, until someone realized they could share it in a way that helped both sides. Han called both leaders back for another video conference, this time together. Both Governor Lee and Commander Park appeared on the screen at the same time, glaring at each other with obvious hatred. "Governor Lee, Commander Park," Han began, "I have studied your conflict carefully. You are both fighting over who owns the asteroid field, but I want to ask you a different question. What do your people actually need?" Governor Lee looked surprised. "We need the Velthium crystals to power our cities and ships." "So do we," Commander Park added quickly. "Without them, our people will suffer." "Exactly," Han said with a growing smile. "You both need the crystals, but you don't necessarily need to own the entire asteroid field. What if there was a way for both of your planets to get all the crystals you need without fighting?" Do-yeon caught on to Han's idea immediately. "Captain, are you thinking about joint mining operations?" Better than that, Han replied. I'm thinking about efficiency. Minho, show them the report you found about crystal waste. Minho brought up data on his screen. Both of your mining operations are very inefficient. You each only extract about 30% of the crystals from each asteroid. The rest are wasted or destroyed during your battles. Han leaned forward toward the screen. If you work together using better technology and shared methods, you could extract 90% of the crystals. That means there would be 3 times more crystals for both planets than either of you are getting now. Both leaders stared at him in shock. For 50 years, they had been fighting over a limited resource, never realizing they could make that resource much larger by cooperating, instead of fighting. 3 months into the trial period, something remarkable was happening aboard the Relarian mothership. Han walked through the corridors and noticed a change in the atmosphere. Instead of the tense whispers and worried faces he had seen before, Relarians from both factions were actually talking to each other, not arguing, but having real conversations. The team High Council meetings had become the most interesting part of Han's day. Every morning he would sit in the observer's chair and watch as former enemies worked together to solve problems. It wasn't always easy, and there were still heated debates, but something fundamental had changed. Captain Han, Elder Veltar, said after one particularly productive meeting, I must admit something to you. When General Kexmar first challenged the Queen, I thought he was simply a troublemaker who wanted power. But working with him these past months has shown me that his concerns were real and important. Han smiled. What changed your mind, Elder? Last week, when we were discussing the food shortage on the outer colonies, I suggested we send emergency supplies immediately because it was the compassionate thing to do. But General Kexmar asked practical questions. Where would the supplies come from? How would we transport them? What would happen to other colonies if we took their reserves? Elder Veltar looked thoughtful as he continued. At first, I was annoyed by his questions, but then I realized he wasn't trying to stop us from helping people. He was trying to make sure our help would actually work and not create bigger problems. This was exactly what Han had hoped would happen. On Earth, he had seen how people with different viewpoints could strengthen each other when they learned to work together instead of fighting. Meanwhile, General Kexmar was having his own revelations. Han found him one evening in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars with a peaceful expression that was very different from his usual stern demeanor. Captain Han, the general said without turning around, I owe you an apology. For what, General? When I first saw you, I thought you were just another weak species trying to trick us with false promises. I believed that strength came only from military power and rigid discipline. Kexmar turned to face Han, his skin showing a softer color than usual. But watching your methods these past months has taught me something our people had forgotten. What's that? Han asked. True strength comes from unity, not domination. When I forced people to follow my orders through fear, they obeyed, but they didn't truly support me. When you helped us find solutions that everyone could accept, people followed willingly because they believed in what we were doing. The most dramatic change came during a crisis in the 5th month. A merchant ship carrying valuable medical supplies had been attacked by space pirates near the border of Relarian territory. In the old system, the Queen's traditional advisors would have immediately sent a rescue mission based on moral duty, while the military faction would have wanted to pursue and punish the pirates first. But in the High Council meeting, something different happened. Elder Veltar presented the moral case for immediate rescue, while General Kexmar outlined the strategic considerations. Instead of arguing, they listened to each other. Elder Veltar is right that we must save those people, General Kexmar said thoughtfully. But we also need to make sure our rescue ships don't fall into the same trap. And General Kexmar's point about the pirates is valid, Elder Veltar replied. If we don't deal with them, they will attack more innocent ships. Together they developed a plan that accomplished both goals. A fast rescue team would save the survivors while a larger military force would track down the pirates. The mission was a complete success, saving lives and eliminating the threat. Word of the successful cooperation spread throughout the Empire. Other planets and space stations began asking for help with their own conflicts. wanting to learn the human method of finding solutions that worked for everyone. The most important moment came at the end of the 6-month trial period. The entire Rilarian High Council gathered for a formal evaluation, with Queen Morthala presiding and Han observing from his usual seat. General Kexmar stood up to address the assembly. His voice was strong and clear, but there was none of the anger or hostility that Han remembered from their first meeting. 6 months ago, I challenged these humans because I believed they would weaken our empire with false promises and impossible dreams, he began. I was wrong. The room was completely silent as he continued. Captain Han and his crew have shown us something our rigid society had forgotten, that our differences can make us stronger instead of tearing us apart. They have proven that the ancient prophecy was true, not because of magic or divine power, but because they understood something about cooperation that we had lost. General Kexmar looked directly at Han. The humans possess a wisdom that our people need to learn. They see conflict not as something to win or lose, but as a problem to solve together. The applause that followed was unlike anything Han had ever heard. It came from both factions, united in their appreciation for what they had accomplished together. The day of the formal ceremony arrived with an excitement that Han could feel throughout the entire mothership. Rilarians who had been working in different parts of the vessel were now gathering in the grand hall, their skin glowing with anticipation. Han had never seen so many aliens in one place, and the sight was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Sujin helped Han adjust his dress uniform one final time. "Captain, are you ready for this?" she asked with a smile. "You're about to make history." Doyon was checking the communication equipment that would broadcast the ceremony across the entire Rilarian Empire. "Captain, there are reports coming in that millions of Rilarians on hundreds of planets are watching. This is bigger than anything we imagined when we left Earth." Han took a deep breath and looked at himself in the mirror. 6 months ago, he had been just another space captain on a diplomatic mission. Now he was about to become the first human to hold an official position in an alien government. The responsibility felt enormous. Minho burst into the room with excitement. "Captain, you need to see this. Messages are coming in from all over the Empire. Planets that have been fighting for decades are asking for human mediators. Space stations want to learn our methods of cooperation. Even the Rilarian military academies want to add human diplomatic techniques to their training programs." The ceremony began with a procession through the ship's corridors. Han walked alongside Queen Morthala, while General Kexmar and Elder Veltar followed behind them, representing the unity of the High Council. Hundreds of Rilarians lined the hallways, their skin shifting through beautiful colors as they showed their respect and happiness. When they reached the grand hall, Han was amazed to see that it had been transformed. The walls displayed images from across the Rilarian Empire, cities, planets, space stations, and starfleets, all connected by the communication network that would carry this historic moment to every corner of their civilization. Queen Morthala stepped onto the central platform, her silver skin glowing brighter than Han had ever seen it. Her voice carried easily through the hall and across the Empire as she began to speak. "Citizens of the Rilarian Empire," she said, "today we witness the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy and the beginning of a new chapter in our history. The Star Wanderers spoken of in our oldest texts have arrived, and they have proven themselves worthy of our trust and friendship." She gestured toward Han, who felt his heart beating fast as thousands of alien eyes focused on him. "Captain Li Han of the planet Earth has shown us that true strength comes not from conquest or domination, but from understanding and cooperation. Under his guidance, conflicts that seemed impossible to solve have found peaceful resolution." General Kexmar stepped forward to address the crowd. His transformation from Han's enemy to his supporter had been one of the most remarkable changes of the past months. "Citizens, I was the first to doubt these humans. I challenged their claims and tested their abilities, but they have proven that their way of making peace is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength." The general's voice grew stronger as he continued. "They have taught us that when we work together, our different viewpoints make us stronger, instead of dividing us. This is the wisdom our ancestors spoke of in the prophecy. Elder Veltar then spoke about the historical significance of the moment. For 3,000 years, our people have waited for this day. The Star Wanderers have not only fulfilled the prophecy through their actions, but they have shown us how to fulfill it ourselves by learning their methods of cooperation. Then came the moment Han had been preparing for, but still couldn't quite believe was happening. Queen Morthala called him to step forward onto the platform beside her. "Captain Li Han," she said formally, "by the power granted to me by the Relarian High Council and with the unanimous support of both traditional and practical advisors, I hereby declare you the first Imperial Ambassador from the planet Earth to the Relarian Empire." She held up a beautiful crystal badge that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within it. "This rank has never been held by anyone outside our species. You will serve as an equal partner in our government, helping to guide our empire toward a future of peace and prosperity." As the Queen pinned the ambassador's badge to Han's uniform, the crowd erupted in cheers that seemed to shake the entire ship. But what moved Han the most was seeing Sujin and Doyon in the front row, tears of pride in their eyes as they watched their captain make history. The ceremony concluded with a formal treaty signing that established Earth and the Relarian Empire as equal partners. Han signed his name next to Queen Morthala's flowing Relarian script, creating the first official alliance between humans and an alien civilization. As the celebration continued around him, Han thought about how this moment would change everything, not just for him, but for all of humanity. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. They now had friends among the stars, and together they could build a future that neither species could achieve alone. The broadcast carried images of the celebration to every corner of the Relarian Empire, where millions of beings watched the beginning of a new era of cooperation between species. 6 months after the historic ceremony, Han stood on the bridge of the Unity's Dawn, a magnificent new spacecraft that represented everything he had worked toward. The ship was unlike anything that had ever been built before, a perfect combination of human and Relarian technology, designed specifically for diplomatic missions across the galaxy. The bridge itself told the story of cooperation, human style. Control panels sat alongside Relarian crystal interfaces, Earth's blue and green colors mixed with the flowing silver designs of Relarian architecture. Most importantly, the crew was a perfect blend of both species working together as one team. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin had been promoted to Chief Diplomatic Officer, and she now wore a uniform that combined Earth's military traditions with Relarian ceremonial elements. "Captain, we're receiving another request for mediation," she reported from her station. "This time it's from the Zephyrian Trade Federation. They're having a dispute with the Mordak Republic over shipping routes." Doyon, now serving as Chief Technology Officer, looked up from her engineering console. "That makes 12 requests. This month, Captain. Word is really spreading about our success rate." Han smiled as he looked at the holographic map, displaying all the worlds they had helped bring peace to. In just 6 months, the human Relarian Diplomatic Corps had resolved conflicts that had lasted for decades. The secret wasn't advanced technology or military force. It was simply the human approach of listening to all sides and finding solutions that worked for everyone. Communications Officer Min Ho, who now spoke 7 different alien languages fluently, received an incoming message. "Captain, Queen Morthala is calling from the mothership. She says she has important news." The Queen's image appeared on the main screen, her silver skin glowing with excitement. "Ambassador Han, I have wonderful news to share. The Galactic Council has officially recognized the human Relarian Diplomatic Corps as an independent peacekeeping organization. You now have the authority to mediate conflicts anywhere in the known galaxy." Han felt a surge of pride and responsibility. The Galactic Council was made up of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. For them to recognize a partnership between humans and Relarians, 2 species that had only met 8 months ago, was unprecedented. "There's more," Queen Morthala continued. 3 new species have requested to join our diplomatic program. The Aquarian Collective, the silicon-based miners of Vex Prime, and even the mysterious energy beings from the ethereal nebula want to learn human methods of conflict resolution. Elder Veltar appeared beside the Queen on the screen. Ambassador Han, your species has accomplished something we thought was impossible. You have shown the galaxy that cooperation is more powerful than conquest. Just then, Sujin received an urgent message. Captain, we're getting a priority call from Earth. It's President Kim Ji-woo. The image switched to show Earth's president in her office, with flags from every nation on Earth visible behind her. Captain Han, the entire world is watching your success with incredible pride, but I'm calling because we need your help with something close to home. Han leaned forward with interest. What can we do for Earth, Madam President? The United Nations wants to establish a permanent interstellar diplomatic academy, President Kim explained. We want to train the next generation of human peacekeepers using the methods you've developed. Will you help us create this program? Han looked around at his crew, humans and Relarians working together on the bridge of their shared vessel. To-yon was collaborating with a Relarian engineer to improve their communication systems. Minho was teaching a young Relarian officer how to speak Mandarin. Sujin was planning their next mission with both human and alien advisors. Madam President, Han said with a smile, we would be honored to help, but I have one condition. What's that, Captain? The Academy shouldn't just train humans. We should invite students from every species we've worked with. If we're going to build lasting peace in the galaxy, we need peacekeepers who truly understand all kinds of beings. President Kim's face lit up with approval. Captain Han, that's exactly the kind of thinking that has made you so successful. The Academy will welcome students from across the galaxy. As the call ended, Han walked to the large observation window at the front of the bridge. Outside, he could see ships from a dozen different species traveling peacefully through space. Some were heading to trade with former enemies who were now partners. Others were carrying diplomats to peace talks that the human Relarian Corps had helped arrange. General Kexmar, who had become one of Han's closest allies, joined him at the window. The former rebel now served as military advisor to the diplomatic corps, helping to ensure that peaceful solutions were backed by the strength to maintain them. Captain, General Kexmar said, do you ever think about how different things might have been if your ship had never arrived at our mothership? Han thought about the question seriously. I think about it often, General, but I believe we would have found each other eventually. The universe has a way of bringing together people who are meant to work toward the same goals. As Han looked out at the peaceful galaxy that was slowly emerging around them, he realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had proven themselves not as conquerors or colonizers, but as the bridge builders and peacekeepers the galaxy had been waiting for. The stars no longer seemed cold and distant. They were destinations filled with friends, partners, and opportunities to make the universe a better place for all beings.